All right, so today we're going to talk about the round trip between Blender and Photoshop. And there's a few quick tips that I want to give you, even if you're a pro in Blender and Photoshop, even if you know a lot more than me. There's a few tips that might be helpful for you. So I'll try to show those right up front in case when I start getting into some of the Photoshop stuff, if you're like, I can do this better, you can just skip that part of it. So let's start by saying this is the problem I'm trying to solve. So basically, I just want to change this text to different numbers. I just needed 4 different numbers. And so obviously, I can open up that texture, whatever it is. I'm going to click on it here. What do we got here? Okay, front fuselage, something like that. Front fuselage. So I could just open this in Photoshop. And I could work on it. I could go in here and just start working. And, that's great. Sometimes, like for what I need to do today, I could definitely just do it that way. But it wouldn't be really helpful for you right now. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll save this as a Photoshop document. And yep, save it in the same spot. That's fine. And now let's come back over here. And I'm going to show you one other thing real quick. So sometimes it's helpful to have the UV layout. So from layout, if I go over to UV editing, and I click on the part that I want to export. So like, let's say I want, where did I go? So if I push tab and I enter edit mode, I can select, vertices. Let me zoom out here so we can see what's going on. So anything, if I push A to select all, it'll show you where all the vertices are here. But I also could say I just want to see these vertices, and it'll show me, where these are. So let's see. Let me get these 2 for now. So what I could do is now over here in this UV editing section, there's a UV, and so UV tab. Click UV, export UV layout, and if I want all the UVs, I can check this box. Or if I want just the ones that I have selected to show up as an overlay, I can do that. I'm going to go ahead and select all UVs because I could always delete the other part of it if I don't want it. Save this in the same spot. No, I don't want to save it in my textures folder. I'll save it here. I'll call this UV at the end. So UV, export layout. And now I can go find that. And it's going to take it a second for it to save. I just deleted that. Okay, here we go. Yeah. So let me go ahead and bring that into Photoshop. Zoom out here. Make sure it's centered. And so now you've got this really helpful UV layout. This shows me exactly where everything's laid out. And it's just a layout, so I could turn it on, turn it off. But yeah, can be very, very helpful when you're starting to edit any of this stuff. So for now, I don't really need it on. I'm just going to turn it off for now, and I'm going to duplicate my background just so that I don't mess with the background at all. All right, so now I have this. So all right, before I go too much further, let me give those quick tips for those who need to check out. So I'm going to go ahead and let's say I just want to delete all of it. Now if I push Control, I'm not going to save yet. So if I go back to Blender and I go to shading and make sure this is selected, I can select. So just in case you're even really new to Blender, if you click to the shading tab, you should get, whatever you're selected on. So I have this part selected. You'll have your texture set up here. And this is a very, very basic texture setup. It's just a base color set to base color. And if I select this, I can choose the Photoshop document that I made. And I haven't made any changes, so we didn't see any changes. But this is where it's going to get important. So if I make a change here, so I just made this change, and I do Control S, right, to save it, then it doesn't automatically update. So one way you can do it, and I'll show you exactly how to do it in a minute, but if I push Alt R it'll refresh whatever files I have. It refreshes all files here. So it'll refresh that. And if I do Control Z over here, Alt R, oh, I guess I got to save. So Alt R, and it's back. So this has been really helpful. Before I was manually loading it every time I needed to change it. So this is really helpful. I should mention, you have to be hovering over this node area for the Alt R to work. If I hover over here and I do Alt R, it's going to reset the rotation. So you don't want that. Hover in here, Alt R. But it doesn't do this by default. So you have to have Node Wrangler installed. And if you don't have it installed, you should have it installed. So let me just back up here. Edit, Preferences, and then you can search Node and then Node Wrangler. This, I mean, honestly, you should do a whole Node Wrangler tutorial if you're not familiar with it. But Node Wrangler, make sure it's enabled. Once it's enabled, you have a bunch of really cool things you can do. If I do Alt right click, it'll automatically set that node to alpha. I can do, let's see, Control right click to cut that node. There's a million things that are great about Node Wrangler, but for today's tutorial, the main one is that we can refresh Photoshop documents or reload them rather, and that really helps when you're iterating and you're doing a lot of changes. So yeah, so that's the quick tips. Now the rest I'm just going to start showing you what I'm doing, and some of this stuff will be probably familiar with you if you're already familiar with Photoshop. So all right, so let's see what we got here. Background copy. So let me go ahead and let me think what I want to do first. So I know I need to change this text. Let me actually, real quick, let me figure out what numbers I want to change it to. So push T, I can click text, and I'll do, what did I say, 7501. Control A to select all, change color to that. 7501, that works. All right. So, so this is the text that I want to replace there. So I can look at it and see sort of what I needed to do. But basically the way to do it is do Control T for transform, right click, and then flip horizontal, and then just see, okay, does that look right? Control T, let me go ahead and shrink this down. Rough it into place, maybe a little bit smaller, something like that. Then I need to hide this, and on the background copy, I'm going to just get rid of this. So I'm just going to do B, Alt, select the color, done, M, get rid of that. All right, then this might not work. Let's see what it looks like right now. So I'll do Control S. Come back over here, Alt R, and that's what we got. Actually, it doesn't look bad. I might actually change. I don't like that this is kind of italics, so I might change this one first. But it's a little big, so let me go ahead and scale it down. Let's see, Control T. Nope, wrong one. Control T. Down a little bit, maybe to the right. Save. Okay, and then I want to move it up. Let's move it up some more. Yeah, that looks okay. So yeah, I think I do. Now that I'm looking at it, I want to get rid of this text as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a new layer. E-tops. I think this top of this one needs to go towards this X. So I have both of these selected by holding Shift and clicking, and then Control T, I can transform them both. So the top of this one needs to go towards this X just a little bit. Save. Alt R. And paste these. So I'm going to do them one at a time actually. Copy, paste. Now this one is upside down, so you can see the numbers are upside down. So if I do Control T, right click, flip vertical, and then it looks like it's backwards as well. So I'll go back to horizontal, and then I think that'll be right. We'll have to put it in and see. So let me All right, so we'll just leave it like that for now. Okay, so Control F. You probably don't want to keep the PSD as the texture here. So once you're done, you're finished with that with Photoshop, I strongly recommend you save, of course, and then you export this to whatever file you want. I'm going to do quick export as PNG. Say save, and now in here, I'm going to go choose that PNG, because if you keep the PSD in there, when you export it, it sort of, I don't know how exactly it decides how it's going to export, and maybe there's a way to change the default, but I found that it exports it to like JPEG, and then it's compressed, and that's not what I want. So I would just recommend saving it as PNG and then saving it back in here. So that's it for the tutorial. Hopefully this was helpful, and yeah, let me know if you have any questions or if you know a better way of doing things. All right, have a good one.